And yeah, with that, we'll jump into the next section of our Movies Monthly, which is what I watched at home. So this is just a chance for me to share what I've been watching at home. I'd love to hear, which movies you have seen at home, or which shows you've been watching down in the comments. If you've seen any of these, especially, let me know how much you enjoyed them. But yeah, the while it was a busy month, I managed to finish up several seasons of different shows. And first up, we had Stranger Things season 4. They dropped their final 2 episodes of the season very early on in the month, and I thoroughly enjoyed season 4. I can finally talk about it now in a Movies Monthly, even though they dropped the first batch back in May. And yeah, this was my second favorite season of the show overall. I think season 1 is still my favorite, but really happy that they're actually trending up again from seasons 2 and 3, which I still really liked, but they weren't quite on the level of season 1. Whereas I think season 4, while not quite as good as season 1, is still kind of up there in the conversation as to whether or not it is that good. And so, yeah, I think with this season, we still have one more season to go. But at this point, having 4 of the 5 seasons, I am at the point where I give this a great. Like, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. They do such a good job, and season 4 was very good all around. I love that the last 2 episodes of the season were collectively 4 hours long. Like, they basically gave us 2 movies. And I know some people that was a lot, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Basically I think I watched both episodes in the same day, and it was yeah. Not many other shows do that, so I personally enjoyed it. Next up, we have The Boys. They finished their 3rd season this month, and this is another, I think, great show. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. There's a lot of like gore and a lot of crude humor and that sort of thing, but it definitely tries to push the bounds on those things. But I do enjoy it. I think they are being very original as far as anything else that's out there that I've seen. And season 3 continues what the show is. I don't think it's quite up there with season 1 as far as which one is my favorite, but maybe that was just because of the novelty of what season 1 was, and now at this point we're maybe a little desensitized to what The Boys is, and when they kind of push the boundaries, it's not as shocking anymore. But I do think this is a great show if you can get through some of the types of like humor and stuff that are in there. As long as that doesn't turn you off, I do think it's a great show. And then next up, I finished the 3rd season of Fargo this month, and this is a show that I watched. Like, I only do like a season at a time. It had been a year or two, something like that, since I watched season 2. But I really liked season 3. It was like, having been disappointed by Obi-Wan, it was nice to have something with Ewan McGregor in that I really liked. And I'm not quite at the point where I'd say Fargo's a great show. I think it might be, but for now, I'm going to give it a very good. This was a really entertaining season, and I thought the villain was well done. Very, very despicable, and somebody that I was just waiting for them to get what was coming to them. I don't know I'm not going to say if they did or didn't, but I definitely felt that way the entire season. And it's very typical Fargo at this point if you've seen any other of the seasons. But it's one that I recommend and thought was very good. Ms. Marvel, this was a show that I thought got off to a really good start, and I loved a lot of it. It felt very fresh for the MCU, and they were kind of breaking out of the cookie cutter mold that they've been doing for a lot of their stuff, especially their TV shows. That said, that was the first couple episodes. They then kind of fit into that cookie cutter mold in the 2nd and 3rd parts of the season. And so while I still enjoyed it, I do think that it was just good. It's not one that I would up and recommend. I think I was at that point after the first 2 episodes, but the rest of the season did kind of bring it down for me. So my suggestion to Marvel there is, I mean, not that I would know anything about how to run, making movies, but I'd like to see more fresh stuff and stick it out through the rest of the season and not make every single thing feel like the next as far as how the season comes to a close. Like, not everything has to be big, like relatively big in scale, but That's what it is. Next up, we have Chernobyl. I got around to this after it being out for years now. I think I had watched the first 2 episodes initially and didn't realize it was only like a 5-part miniseries. Otherwise, I think I would have finished it out. But finally got back around to it, and I think the show is very well done. But for my personal enjoyment of it, I would give it just a good. I liked the first and like the last episodes, but the middle episodes felt just like a little long. And yeah, while I really appreciated getting to learn about it because it was a story I was unfamiliar with, that was like the main interesting part of it. And yeah, I can see why it's like very very highly rated, but for me, like my personal enjoyment of it and like entertainment value, although there again, I think the subject matter kind of prevents it a bit as far as entertainment value. So, but yeah, I still give it just a good. Like I think it's worth a watch, but I wouldn't go out of my way to recommend it necessarily. And then last up we have The Gray Man. I just watched this I think a day or two ago, and I think it's been out for a week or two. But I was really looking forward to this film. I like what the Russo brothers have done in the MCU, and I was excited to see Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling as the leads in this, but it also had a pretty good supporting cast. In like I've seen Ana de Armas now in a few different things, and so it's always good to see something where you recognize the actors in it. That said, I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. I thought that it was very, very cinematic. I think this is one that would be great to see in theaters, although it only had a very limited release. But I watched it at home on my 135-inch screen that I've got a projector for, and yeah, it was very, very beautifully shot. I really liked how they used drones to film stuff too in this. It was done enough for me to appreciate it, but they didn't go over the top like Michael Bay did in Ambulance, for example. And so I thought, yeah, the visuals were really, really good. Some of it reminded me a bit of John Wick for just all like the bright lights and colors. And so I liked that aspect of it quite a bit, but I thought that the story itself was fairly straightforward for this type of movie. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it a good. Like I think it's fun, it's worth the watch, but I'm not gonna say, hey, this is very good, you should go check it out. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, is what it is at the end of the day. So this month, yeah, we had some good stuff at home. It's nice to see a variety of things. And if you've been watching stuff and got any recommendations, well, I can't promise I'll get to it anytime soon. I'm always open to recommendations and kind of fleshing out my backlog of stuff to get through. So drop any recommendations or thoughts on any of this stuff if you've seen it in the comments below.